Yo, how's it going everybody? It's me, Arctic, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a complete weapons guide for Kamisato Ayato. I'm going to be talking about each of his viable weapons and what build they're going to kind of be good for, and generally how to utilize them on a Kamisato Ayato. But if you are new to the channel, remember to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10,400 subscribers. If you're into early character build guides, that's pretty much what I mainly focus on, although I do also do some Genshin Impact leak news if you guys are interested in that. But anyway, let's get back to the video. So a few things that we have to actually keep in mind before we select a weapon to use on Kamisato Ayato is that he primarily is actually a kind of a burst DPS, I would say, where like my definition of burst DPS is actually where they basically are on the field, use their abilities, and basically get off the field. Kamisato Ayato is not a main DPS. Now I'm gonna see a lot of people actually trying to use him as a main DPS, and like you can kind of do that, but he's kind of a main DPS in the sense of Yoimiya or Tartaglia is a main DPS. Basically, to my point, they are a burst DPS. Like, they do a good amount of damage on their cooldowns and whatever, but once their cooldowns are over, then they basically can't be used, pretty much. Kamisato Ayato does actually have a pretty good sub-DPS capabilities with his elemental burst, though, which is going to actually set him apart from some of the characters like Yoimiya, who has an awful elemental burst for sub-DPS, actually. In terms of what stats I think are going to be the best for Ayato, we're going to be looking for stuff like crit rate. Crit rate is definitely a big thing, considering that he ascends with crit damage. We're going to be looking for crit damage as a substat also, because like you can basically balance that out with like a crit rate hat, something like that. Energy recharge is also going to be an okay stat to use if you are running him as a sub DPS with a 4-piece emblems build. And then attack percent is also going to factor in pretty nicely, especially with one of the new artifact sets that's actually coming out. The Blackcliff Longsword. This weapon is pretty much a standard whip. You can get this weapon relatively easy from the Star Glitter shop. You just have to like save up your wishes and whatnot. And like if you are wishing for Ayato, you're probably gonna have enough Star Glitter to get one of these when it comes around. This weapon is honestly a pretty solid choice. It does come with a good high base attack at 565, so that's a pretty good amount of base attack. And also its crit damage substat, it goes up to 36%. And then alongside this, after you're defeating opponents, you're going to gain a 12% attack for 30 seconds and to a maximum of 3 times. So you definitely get a lot of good benefits from this weapon. So I would honestly kind of recommend this if you are going for more of a low-key kind of build on your Ayato. But make sure you do run like a crit rate hat or get enough crit rate for your Ayato if you are planning on running one of these type of weapons. The Lion's Roar could potentially work. However, since Kamisato Ayato is actually a Hydro character, he's really going to be applying like Pyro off of enemies very fast. So the passive of Lion's Roar isn't going to be able to be procced that often. And he doesn't really have any like large hits. Mostly Ayato is like a multi-hit kind of character. Another thing is that you could actually use this for the Electro team comps basically, because it also increases like versus like Electro. So if you're using like a Yai Miko as a sub DPS or like a Raiden Shogun, something like that, you definitely can get some pretty good like damage with this, especially, and actually like C6 Fischl would actually be a very good character to pair up with this weapon specifically. This weapon is pretty solid. It does come with attack percent and also a pretty mid base attack right here, so definitely a option to consider. Special Sword is an option that we don't necessarily know if it's going to work yet, but if it is actually able to reset the cooldown of Ayato's E skill, that could actually be pretty huge, considering that this would pretty much give him almost constant uptime, I would say, on his ability. Base stats are a little bit low if you are going for like a main DPS kind of build on him, but if you're able to actually like re-trigger his elemental skill, which I highly doubt, be a solid option if you are planning on going for like uptime on his elemental skill. The Black Sword is the Battle Pass sword and is probably going to be one of the better options as a low spender. It's going to be really nice because it does give you that nice crit rate, so it gives you 27% crit rate. It has a pretty mid base attack at 510. On this also increases the normal and charge attack damage by 20%, which is actually really good on Ayato because most of his damage is coming from his normal attacks. You regenerate 60% of your attack as HP when you use normal and charge attacks, so that's really good, especially if you don't want to run like a healer type of character on your team. Now getting into the 5-star options. First up, the Aquila Favonia. This weapon could potentially be good on Ayato, just considering that it does come with attack percent. So it's going to be pretty solid, especially if you are pairing it with like his normal attack artifact set that is going to be releasing in 2.6, which basically converts like attack into like a little bit of extra like normal attack damage, so could actually be pretty good. It does have a very nice high base attack at 674, so attack percent is going to actually factor in quite a bit, and it does actually come with physical damage bonus, which is going to be good if you are using Ayato as like a on-field main DPS, which I don't know why you would do that. But outside of his elemental skill, he is going to be getting that extra like boost to physical damage. Passive on this also triggers like a little Falcon of the West that deals damage once you get hit, so can actually be pretty solid. So the Skyward Blade is actually going to be a solid option if you are going for a sub DPS build, I would say, on Ayato. And just generally overall, I think this weapon is going to be pretty good on Ayato. Comes with a mid base attack for the 5 stars at 608. And then it comes with energy recharges as a substat, so it's going to be very nice if you are running like a 4-piece emblem build on him. Passive on this increases your crit rate by 4%, which isn't really that much, but if you are stacking a bunch more of like artifact substats, you can potentially get a pretty good solid amount of crit rate from this. But the real main thing that I want to talk about by using this weapon is it actually gains you your Sky Piercing Might upon casting your Elemental Burst, which increases your movement speed by 10% and also increases your attack speed by 10%. So that's going to actually affect his normal attack speed. So you're going to be able to get a little bit more normal attacks off within his elemental skill. So your normal and charged attack hits are going to deal an extra damage instance of like 20% of your attack. But sadly, that is actually going to be physical damage. It's not going to be infused with like a Hydro, I don't believe. The Summit Shaper weapon could potentially be good if you're going for like a lot of attack on your Ayato. This gives you 49% attack percent, so that's definitely very high. And then if you are using it with like a Zhongli or other shielding characters, it's going to increase like your shield strength, and also hitting enemies is actually going to increase your attack percent also by quite a bit amount. So I kind of would recommend this weapon to test out on Ayato. Jade Cutter is an excellent option to actually use on Ayato, considering that he also does have some HP scaling with some of his kit in terms of like damage bonuses. So that's going to actually factor in quite a bit from its HP substat. The weapon does have a 542 base attack, so it's honestly like running a 4-star weapon as a base attack. But it makes up for that with its high amount of crit rate, so it gets 44% crit rate, which is actually a lot of crit rate. Part of this passive, it basically converts your max HP into an attack bonus, so kind of can benefit you a little bit from that as well. The Mist Splitter Reforged is a great option to use on him, considering that it does increase your elemental damage bonus by 12%. And then also, whenever you're going to be using these different abilities, you're going to get different stacks. Normal attack to an opponent, you're going to get one of these stacks. And then if you cast your Elemental Burst, the stack's going to last 10 seconds. And also, if your energy is less than 100%, your stack is going to, you're going to get a stack of this also. So that's a lot of elemental damage bonus that you're actually going to be able to get. It does have a high base attack at 674, and it comes with crit damage as a substat. But once again, make sure to run a crit rate hat, or make sure you have enough crit rate to basically like utilize this weapon. And then last but not least, Kamisato Ayato's best in slot weapon, actually his signature weapon. It's going to be very similar to the Mist Splitters Reforged, but instead of crit damage, it's going to give you crit rate. The crit rate goes up to, I think, like 34%, I'm pretty sure. It has a 608 base attack, and also you're going to be getting 12% all elemental damage bonus. And then when nearby party members' normal attacks hit opponents, the character equipping this weapon will gain a stack of Wave Spike, and you get a maximum of 5 stacks of this, triggered every 0.3 seconds. When the character equipping this weapon uses an elemental skill, all stacks of Wave Spike will be consumed to gain Rippling Upheaval, which will basically increase your normal attack damage by 8% for 8 seconds per stack that you actually consumed. That's 40%, so honestly that actually totals out to be a little bit more than the Mist Splitters Reforged, but you are kind of losing out on that like crit damage. So honestly, I don't really know which one of those two weapons is going to be better, but this one is definitely focused around Ayato's kit. Anyway, that's about it for the video. Let me know if you guys liked it down in the comments section below. Expect a weapons tier list video once we actually get a little bit more people doing like calculations on these certain weapons, and generally how we see how his kit performs a bit more. But anyway, it's been me, Arctic. I will see you guys in the next one. Farewell.